My parents were university teachers. And you know that academics is quite tough. I started my career, did a bachelor's, did an MSc, started a PhD for 2 years and decided I was running away. These things were too difficult. I need to go into industry to go and earn money. That's how I ended up in industry. My junior brother just managed to do his bachelor's and threatened that anybody that asked him to do a postgraduate degree was going to shoot. He's currently working in a bank and he has a nightclub. My two sisters, my immediate senior sister is a professor of medicine in the United States. And my junior sister is the first professor of neurology, female professor of neurology in Africa. And she's at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital. I asked her to come here today. Now, last year was my wife's first time at the WDP. And unfortunately, she's not around today. When we left this place, she turned around and said to me, because the theme was about getting mentors, she says to me, "You're now my mentor." That has been a torturing experience. But I'm here because I've still survived it. So what is it to say? I do not have to say I believe in the potential of women. Sorry, I don't say that. In actual fact, I worry about men folk in this new generation. Because while the men are playing Nintendo, and there's one my son plays, I can't remember what it is. Yes. My only daughter is concentrating on doing the best she can in school and talking about her future, her career, and all that. So if you ask me, my life would have been a lot simpler if I didn't have two boys who treat me as ATM machines. My plug-in ATM machine. Call up and say, "Dad, I need money." My daughter is quite clever. She does say, "Dad, I need money," but in a different way. I come back and she says to me, "How was your day?" Takes off my shoes, actually, gets me a drink, and then asks me for a request that is probably 10 times what the boys would normally ask me, and I have to pay. So I'm convinced, both intellectually, both in what we call Connie, women folk are heads and shoulders above the men folk. I say that with conviction. So it's not tokenism, it's nothing like that. I would say that if I was coming back again, please make me a woman. Yeah. Now, this WDP, I was planning to actually sponsor, but I was told that as council chair, it's a conflict of interest for me to be sponsoring events. So what I'm going to do is next year, the WDP will be sponsored by my wife's company, which is Simply Health, fully sponsored. So the SP people should take note of that and write it down. Again, I'd like to welcome you. I hope you have, very deep deliberations. It's diversification of the Nigerian economy, but this is about women leveraging opportunities. And I do know that we have a distinguished panel. Toun Mustafa, I know very well. Worked with her on a number of projects when I was in Shell. Toun, where are you? Dr. Mustafa, thank you very much. She was somebody that drove me basically into midnight hours to deliver. I was quite convinced that if I found a way to dodge Toun, my life would also be simpler. So Toun, thanks a lot. It helped a lot. Motayo, Femi, a good friend. We've done this mentorship thing for many years. They invite me to do entrepreneurial mentorship with Femi, and I laugh because I don't own any company. I've not started anything. But, they say come and talk to us about it. So I come, and then while I'm there, Femi weighs in, does all the talking. I do the smile and then turn around to ask him certain questions so I can learn from him about how to actually be an entrepreneur. So Femi, welcome. It would be great to have you. Dr. Dozian, I think I just met you. But I can tell you that before they invited you here, they sent your name, and I went on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, when you search for somebody's profile, it probably shows up that somebody has searched for your profile. If you look carefully, there's a Chikezie Nwosu that went and read your profile. And your service, your working experience, what you have delivered is just exceptional. So we'd like to welcome you here. And thank you very much for finding the opportunity to share your experience with us. Then Ali. Thank you very much. This is the second time I'm inviting you for an event. Habiba Ali was invited for Oleth, and she actually is an entrepreneur, the owner of her own company, and she represents the renewable part of our energy spectrum. And she gave an excellent address on behalf of renewables at the Olebri Lecture and Energy Forum. And we thank you very much. I do know that there were some personal things you had to walk around to find your way here, and it's very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much for making it. Last but in no way the least, please thank you for making it here as well. I know that, again, I do research everybody that comes here, and with your wealth of experience, I know we're going to get the best value out of this Women's Development Program. For the rest of you, what else can I say? Here's an opportunity to network. Here's an opportunity to ask the right questions from women, and a man in this case, who have had the experience of building a career over decades. The opportunity to network is a great opportunity. You don't get this very often. And I keep saying that without mentors and coaches, my life experience would have been totally different. They will challenge you, but they will provide you support. You learn and you grow. And when you share your experiences with them, they also learn. And they know how to modify whatever it is that they are doing in their life to encourage young professionals, especially women. So you will see me go in and out of here, but it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm not going to find this interesting. There's another panel session that is running at this time. I'll go there, do the opening, and I'll just go between this forum and that forum. So please, if you see me leave, it's nothing to do with the interest of what the discussion is about. So I do welcome you, and I know that this is going to be as interesting as the previous WDP programs we've had. And I'll say, what else? Have a great session, and thank you for our speakers, our panelists, and the audience as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our council chair. Very well said, very well said. Can we give him another round of applause, Mr. Chikezie Nwosu? Samson, is my mic on? All right. Thank you very much. You know, council chair, what you were talking about earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I have a 3+-year-old daughter, only daughter. So this day, you know, when you're in that mood, you don't want to talk to anybody, you're frowning and all. So the brothers came, much older than she is. I paid them no attention. So she came with that face of, oh, I'm here, give me attention. I was still acting like I wasn't seeing her. She now paused and looked at me and said, Daddy, I said yes. I said, are you all right? The way she said it and the expression on her face got me laughing. And all of the anger, all of the frowning just went away. And guess what? I did what she wanted, what the brothers had asked for earlier that they didn't get. But anyways, that's why I say personally that women, you own the world. When I say people say it's not true, women, you don't run it, you own it. You do with it what you want and what you like. Where you push it is where it goes, trust me. And I'm convinced about that as well. I am. Thank you very much, Council Chairman. So we're switching gears now. He's told us a bit about our panel or resource persons for today. But a lady would come up, a member of the WDP committee, will come up here, invite each of these resource persons by reading their citations and thereafter bringing them up on the podium. Then that will take us into the keynote presentation. And thereafter, I will come back to I might do that from the side of where I'm seated with a cordless mic and get the other speakers that will speak through their presentations. And finally, yield the podium to our moderator, Dr. Mustafa. But quickly, let me welcome some ladies, distinguished members. They call them ladies men, distinguished ladies men. Professor Ledare will welcome you. Engineer Ney will welcome you. I see Professor Jainka working a few minutes. We welcome all of you. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Let's give them a round of applause. They're identifying identifying with a constituency they're very proud of. So distinguished ladies and ladies, please welcome with me Mrs. Chinenye Chukwuneke. Chinenye Chukwuneke will invite, let's welcome her please. We'll invite our resource persons to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I really feel very privileged to stand before you to introduce our special guest of honor. Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Without much ado, I'll go ahead to introduce our keynote speaker. This extraordinary lady is an accomplished strategic manager with over 15 years experience in corporate sustainability and responsibility, advisory services in microfinance, rural development, project design, and implementation. As the Chief Strategic Officer of Strategy and Execution Limited, she consulted for the Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources on the development of the National Food Security Program from 2008 to 2010. She also served as the Director of Strategy and Monitoring, as well as the head of the CEO's office at the Nigerian Communications Commission. In addition, she was the founding head, Vice President of Sectros Asset Management, now AfriInvest West Africa. She has the following achievements to her credit: organized and convened various international conferences, including the Rural Telecommunications Conference in 2000, organized for the NCCA, USAID, and NCC, the Digital World Conference Africa in 2006, the 6th Annual Forum and 48th Council Meeting of the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization in 2008. She's a stakeholder consultations, including organizing the Raise Nigeria Forum in 2009. She has established the largest bottom of the pyramid in Nigeria, which has been managing CSR projects for multinational corporations, including Citibank, MTN, ExxonMobil, Coca-Cola, NLNG, EcoBank, Visa Phone, and public sector organizations, including the Universal Service Provision Fund, the Nigerian Communications Commission, among others. Her foundation coordinates projects among a network of leading microfinance institutions and cooperatives with a cumulative outreach to approximately 5 million entrepreneurs at the grassroots level in Nigeria. She holds a BSc in economics from the prestigious London School of Economics and Political Science, a diploma in Catholic social teaching, and a PhD at the Johann Wolfgang Goethe University, Frankfurt. Her status as a social entrepreneur was recognized by the Bertelsmann AG, to whom she is affiliated as a Reinhold Mohn Fellow. She is also an associate member of TT30 Club of Rome and participated in the Pioneer Conference of the Partnership of Africa, initiative that Professor Dr. Horst Kohler, President of the Federal Republic of Germany, was involved in. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the founder, Growing Business Foundation, the very delectable Dr. Ndidi Nnolli Edozien. I'll now go to our next speaker. He's an astute entrepreneur with 20 years experience in international oil and gas. He has solid technical foundation from international blue chip companies and has held several executive roles in West Africa. He began as the managing director of Oil and Gas in the year 2000, and through strategic mergers and acquisition, has grown AOS Oil to a company that delivers world-class solutions to the oil and gas industry in Nigeria and Ghana. He is one of those very rare breeds who have successfully combined the role of a visionary entrepreneur and a professional engineer. He spent 18 years in Europe studying and working in the UK and Netherlands in blue chip companies such as Shell, Talisman Energy, Halliburton, and AMEC. He obtained a BSc degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Dundee, UK, Masters in Petroleum Engineering from Imperial College London, and a Masters of Business Administration from University of Aberdeen. He returned to Nigeria immediately after the restoration of democracy to help contribute his quota to rebuilding and re-engineering the country. Leveraging on his international reputation, he started Allwell International Oil and Gas with an international partner in 2000. The trailblazing Allwell International Oil and Gas was one of the first companies to realize that the potential impact of local content drive of the government was to encourage indigenous service providers. Allwell International Oil and Gas merged with the African Oil Services in 2011 in the first of its kind mergers among local companies to form AOS Oil Limited. The merger created a local company with a wide range of service and quality which its clients could depend on. On the heels of this success, AOS Oil embarked on a major acquisition spree, acquiring the businesses of Equipment and Controls Nigeria, All Tools Africa Limited, and Titan Tubular Nigeria Limited. With the backing of a strong leadership team, the companies have successfully evolved into a strong contender in the oil and gas service industry. A proud Nigerian, he continues to champion the cause for financial inclusion and education as a vehicle for social mobility. He works with several charities to pursue his goal. He's married with kids. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Managing Director, CEO, AOS Oil, Mr. Femi Omotayo. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Our next speaker is a transformational leader with about 24 years experience in health, safety, and environment management, technical planning, petroleum economics, and continuous improvement in the oil and gas upstream business. She's currently the Transformation and Business Improvement Manager for Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, where she has demonstrated effectiveness at driving change agenda and a strong track record of integrating people and processes to deliver top quartile performance. Prior to joining the oil and gas industry, she worked as a lecturer in the academia and had a stint in product development in the manufacturing sector. She holds a PhD in environmental epidemiology from the prestigious Imperial College London, a Master of Public Health from University of Wales, Cardiff, a BSc and MSc in microbiology from University of Lagos. She has accreditation as lead auditor for advanced environmental auditing and occupational Imperial College and a reviewer for several international journals. Now, wait for this. She's a recipient of several scholarships and awards, including International Society for Environmental Epidemiology Rebecca James Baker Memorial Prize, British Chevening Scholarship, Commonwealth Scholarship, Federal Government of Nigeria Scholarship, Postgraduate Scholarship, University of Lagos Scholarship. Yeah, please go ahead. Applaud her. United Nations Volunteer Commendation and recognized as member, League of Society of Petroleum Engineers Volunteer. She has presented and published several scientific and business papers in international conferences and journals. She teaches transferable skills to postgraduate students, and she is passionate about environmental issues. Her life ambition is to leverage her education and networks to promote sustainable development globally and alleviate poverty in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Adeto Mustafa. You're welcome. Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be our moderator in the panel session. She's a woman, a very compassionate woman that seeks to alleviate the stress of those living in the rural community in Nigeria. She has been in the renewable energy industry since 2005. She co-founded the Developmental Association for Renewable Energies and worked as national coordinator. She worked on the following projects: Clean Development Mechanism Project, the Efficient Cooking Stove for Nigeria, the Solar Lamps Assembly and Sales Training Program, as well as the Solar Dryers for Healthy Foods Projects, among several others. She later branched out to handle the commercial aspects of renewable energy industry by launching Sosei Renewable Energies, which offers efficient, reliable, sustainable products, including solar lamps, solar home systems, and water filters to the people of the rural and peri-urban communities in northern Nigeria. Through Sosei, she became a member of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and holds the office of Kaduna Northern Regional Coordinator. She is currently the interim vice president of the Renewable Energies Association of Nigeria. She is also a member for Clean Indoor Air, the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, the Nigerian Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves, and the Nigerian Energy Network. As managing director and CEO of Sosei Renewable Energy, she manages Sosei's partnership with Sequest LLC to implement a nationwide program of activities for improved cooking stoves in Nigeria. Sosei is currently empowering communities and businesses with solar technologies ranging from rooftop solar panels, solar home systems, 10 kW microgrids for communities, and solar dryers and integrated energy centers. She was named a Cherie Blair Mentee in 2016 and a Cherie Blair Mentor in 2017. She has also been named a Vital Voices Growth Fellow, a World Bank Women X Fellow, and is a graduate of the Cherie Blair Road to Business Growth Program. She holds a bachelor's degree in accounting, a master's degree in banking and finance, and is currently a dissertation level PhD student in management. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the CEO, Sosei Renewable Energy, Habiba Ali. Thank you. Thank you. Last but not the least, on our list is a panelist. She's the Executive Director, Services at NNPC Research and Development Division, an accomplished administrator and capability development professional. Her career spans several divisions in the NNPC, from corporate administration and personal management, engineering and technology division, refining and petrochemical company, Center for Petroleum Studies, to currently Research and Development Division. She holds a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's degree in sociology. She is a member of the National Institute of Personnel Management and Nigerian Institute of Management. A firm believer that taking action is fundamental to success. She loves playing golf at her spare time. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Executive Director Services, NNPC Research and Development, Mrs. Fumilola Ale. You're welcome. You're welcome. At this point, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Ndidi, to give our keynote address. Thank you. Okay.
All through things we started in this hall. For you to engage with them, please go to the app. If you don't have it, download it from the app, iOS store, the Google Play Store. Download the NICE app. Through that app, I will tell you later how you can ask questions, or you can ask for a question card if you don't want to go through the app and ask a question when we get to that. My apologies. Please continue.
No problem at all. Okay, so the first test is whether the mobile speaker works. Use this one. Can I? Could I use this?
I'm sure we'll manage.
So lapel is on, so you
I
can
was
hear.
thinking that I was going to
It
introduce
seems
even
most of
her.
us are using headphones. Does that mean most people are earphones? Does that mean most people speak French? Or any other language? We're actually all English speaking. Perfect. For better sound. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm here because I missed speaking at the Shell Women's Network session on Women's International Day. My mother was ill. She had a heart attack. And so I wasn't there. Why do I mention that? Because sometimes they say when a door closes, a window opens. And so the fact that we miss some opportunities in life doesn't mean it's the end. And I know my theme today is about diversifying the Nigerian economy and women leveraging existing opportunities. I think that my main message today is really that the opportunities that we leverage very often arise from problems that are immediately around us. And they also arise a lot of the time out of our being willing to step up to the moment. Thirdly, they arise out of our knowledge of ourselves, who we are and what our purpose is. And when I was listening to the opening, I thought it was fascinating actually that it was the two girls in the family who took up in the tradition of who? Of their parents. And it's not by coincidence, because a lot of the time as women, what we do is we're very empathetic to our environment. Very, very often what we do, which is a gift, is that we put others before ourselves. Sometimes what that means is that we actually let our own individual and personal passion fall behind. And that really is the biggest journey. The ability to find our passion without losing who we are, which is that empathetic way of bringing all things together. Because that is a gift that the world needs today. The world that we're in is very broken. There's a lot of disparity between the rich and the poor, which creates all kinds of problems, including insecurity, lack of peace. That's just the beginning. We don't want to get into healthcare or education or other matters. Increasingly acquiring, because it's not actually only women. It's just the feminine in us that is more enhanced, is more precious now than ever. So when men say we will all be called women, I think to myself, actually, women already have men in them. So we don't need to change the name. So this is the first time I'm doing this. It's a big deal for me because normally I hate talking about myself. It's very easy for me to talk about everything and everyone else. So today I decided, and I don't know how this clicker moves, that I would actually start with a profile of self. When I were introducing 15 years of work experience, I did some math and I thought, gosh, that would make me 37. That would be wonderful. Unfortunately, I'm not 37. I'm a lot older. My older daughter is 22. And God, what would I give to go back? But hey, why do we need to go back when we can go forward? So that really is the theme of today. I'm sure you'll get this presentation afterwards, but I chose 3 of the things that I do, actually 4, and then it became 5, to be able to tell the story. So this is a meandering story through what I do, what I love, and how what I love has tried to make an impact in terms of diversifying the economy. A lot of it is photos, and I will fly through them, so you don't have to read what's on the screen at all. I need someone to be a timekeeper for me, so I don't have to look at the clock. And if you can just tell me, divvy it up in quarters, and tell me when I get to the first 5, the second 5, the third 5, and then I'm good. Wonderful. Okay, so I was introduced as the founder of Growing Businesses Foundation. I set that up because my heart was bleeding from when I was very young. And my question was, why are there so many people that have so little and I have? So I also got a lot of scholarships to get into very good schools. My PhD was entirely sponsored, great many privileges that many people don't have anymore. And because I was young, there's an advantage of being in your 20s when you start something. A lot of organizations backed what we were doing. And what we were doing, if you want to go through it over the years, was, somebody mentioned ExxonMobil and NLNG. We worked with them to start programs in the Niger Delta when militarization had not happened. But it was very clear that many people were living off oil companies that had built large walls around themselves. And in fact, ExxonMobil, the MD at that time said to me, Ndidi, for the first time, I had chicken from the neighboring community. I've never eaten local chicken before, and it was so much better than the imported chicken that we buy. So why did Mobil sponsor our project in 2004, $450,000? Because their question was, can you please help us ensure that our local people are the ones producing the things that we eat in the canteen? So we had, I think the last lecture I gave here was for WIMBIZ last year. And when I got off the stage, a woman came up to me and she said, you may not remember me, but in 2006, you gave me money to set up a bakery. I want you to know that I'm still supplying Mobil staff till today, and I've expanded from Eket to Uyo, and my bakery still thrives. So that's how you make an impact and you don't realize. But it's really, so what was GBF? It wasn't actually my vision. Again, it was a situation of many different companies deciding that they wanted to do something and nobody being there to pull it all together. These are micro enterprise awards. There was something on HIV/AIDS because we realized there's no point in helping patients with HIV/AIDS if you're not giving them the means to help themselves. Because once they have the capital to help themselves, they're able to gain dignity in their community, and they're able to offer services and create value, and automatically, therefore, the stigma leaves them, as opposed to just saying, oh, how do I help, right? The youth summit, my heart is with the youth. My younger daughter, who's 20, created something called Teenagers Growing Businesses Club, because her question was, Mama, why are you always helping old people or elder people? Does that mean teenagers know nothing and can do nothing? And so that gave rise to another program 3 years ago actually, empowering teens. And so there are some teenagers right now at the University of Benin who set up a business and who paid part of their school fees because their parents were not well-to-do at university from that, and then inspired us to create a business plan development session, because they came home and said, we sold food in secondary school. We see that university students are always eating and there's never enough food. So can you help us plan so that we're sure we're making profit? We want to set up a bolly joint at the University of Benin. So I'm hoping that by, sometime later in the year, there will be a bolly joint that is supported by these women. Bolly. 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 Right. So what's the most terrible thing that women do, or that we all do as human beings? We do something, but it isn't enough. As mothers, for example, my greatest vocation is being a mother. As a mother, or even as a father, it's never enough, is it? There's always something we've done wrong, or as wives, or whatever we are. We're always thinking, oh, but I could have done more. And that little bit that we didn't do knocks off the confidence for us to do more. And yet, on the other hand, if we see it another way and we don't lose confidence in the process, it actually spurs us. I'll give you the example of the woman across the road from the Growing Businesses Foundation office in Lagos Island. Her picture was there earlier. She's been selling pepper for as long as I know her, pepper and tomatoes. And for 3 years, the staff of GBF tried to convince her to take a loan. We're working on an education program in Delta. Somebody gave me 24,000 naira. So I arrived back in Lagos. I went across the road and I said, Madam, this money was a gift to me. So you take it, invest it in your business. Let's run an experiment. If you make no money off it, don't pay it back. If you do make some money off it, pay it back with whatever you want to pay back. But it's not a loan. It's just, and after 3 years of talking to her about the benefits of growing her business, she took the money. On the day I next came to Lagos, I lived in Abuja at the time, exactly 6 months and 3 days later, for some reason her intelligence knew that I was arriving, and she walked across to the office and she gave back 24,000 naira plus 3,000 naira and said, please make sure you give it to Dr. Edosian. Why am I telling you that story? Because what I found in all of this work with the foundation is that whether in the Niger Delta, where women's repayment rates were 95% and men repaid at 30%, 35%, where women were willing to take as little as 20,000 naira to start and even had to be convinced to take a loan. Men wanted nothing less than 5 million or 10 million. And a lot of the time what they did was they used that money to propel ambitions that just didn't make sense. And so they lost the money because they overstretched themselves. And yet, on the other hand, isn't one of the biggest challenges that as women, we are so competent and so able, but we dare so little? We just don't believe in ourselves enough. Which is why the other thing I found fascinating about the opening by our chair was he talked about mentorship. And that's where I'm going to end this particular story. So the first thing when I asked myself was, right, all of these women, but very often you don't know what impact you've had until somebody shows up and says, I still have the bakery that you sponsored 2006. It still exists today. And so we started work with Unilever. The biggest challenge was, how do you get organizations to actually invest in women and invest in rural businesses and invest in the poor in such a manner that it's not charity? Because when something is charity, it doesn't scale. It doesn't have impact, and very often it's not sustainable. And so in that instance, it was actually Unilever that started a program with us in 2014. The first piece was a complete fiasco. I had to finance 30 women out of pocket. Unilever didn't buy in. The second piece was 100 women, which they financed, but the women made very, very little profit. And what then happened is over time, over a 4-year window, we actually started institutionalizing the impact at scale. So what you see over there is a linkage between the Shakti entrepreneur, there's a picture of one of them later, going all the way back through the sub-distributor, the logistics, and the key distributor of a large multinational. To the extent that when the global chair and CEO of this company came to Nigeria, one of the things they really wanted to see was the rural woman, rural entrepreneur who was making an impact and transforming change. So you had situation where women who were widows, unemployed, who were not really adding any value, quote unquote, to society, because they were given an opportunity, were able to transform. So if you go to Oyo State today, for example, and you ask Unilever, what is the contribution of your rural women to your revenues this year or this month? They will tell you, as at last month, that they contributed 4% to revenues. Now, for a large company to be able to measure the impact of an ordinary woman in a rural area who's selling food and products like that is a big deal. The fact that they've now decided that they are growing from 2,500 women to 10,000 women and from 10,000 women to 25,000 women. Why am I telling you the story? Because everything begins with something very small. But it's sticking with it that helps you grow. What was the other thing I did 2 years ago? And I'm going to get to the Sustainable Development Goal agenda. You know when they say something called think locally and act globally? Very often it helps to have an overall umbrella upon which you can hang your ambition. So when there's a commonality of language, notice how I asked at the beginning whether we're all English or whether we're not, whether we're speaking more than one English, more than one language, because sometimes different languages have different idioms. So it helps to be able to translate, for example, into French, something short that makes an impact. So the Private Sector Advisory Group, what that does is it's really an effort for different companies to come together to make a similar kind of impact. Why am I going through diagrams like this? Because what happens is if you're going to make an impact, as we know from a lot of the CEOs that are on the podium right now, you need to create a structure. Beyond knowing what your own passion is and what your own direction is, you actually need to create structures. And you need to build networks of like-minded people who share your vision and who share a common language with what it is that you want to achieve, because it forms a platform that you can launch from, either in favor or against. Now, I speak to another theme that I was raised or asked to speak on recently, Sustainable Development Goals and women. How many people have heard of the SDGs? So it's becoming a global language, right? And people are willing to support you. You have a particular theme that you're interested in, and people may support you on that. Have you noticed that SDG number 5 is gender equality? One of the things I've always wondered about is why do we need gender equality? Isn't it more of a question of needing gender equity or gender opportunity? So one of the questions I ask constantly is, to what extent do we enter into another era where we are trying to be something that we are not? So I started by asking or by challenging or by saying that a lot of the time as women, we don't necessarily always find and follow our own passion and our own purpose. Because society has so many needs, and a lot of the time we find that we're able to nurture and meet those. And so my biggest fear is that actually we ourselves may fall into that trap of trying to be like someone else, as opposed to trying to be more of ourselves and who we are. Okay, so working from the inside out, my personal perception If you look at the world at the moment, there's so many issues and there's so many problems. So if we see problems not as problems, but as hurdles, as potential opportunities, one of the things that I wanted to challenge everyone in the room to do was actually go through something like this for yourself. Create a little mind map of the issues that really matter to you. Not today, but in 20 years' time. What are the ones that really matter? What are the ones that really don't? And one of the reasons why I did this is because in my current role, which I started last year, I was asked to come and head up sustainability at Dangote. And for me, after having done Growing Businesses Foundation, which worked at the bottom of the pyramid with many big organizations from the outside, having managed to convince one large organization to take poverty, economic empowerment, women inclusion into their mainstream supply chain, but still very minuscule portions. So 4% is still not 20 or 30%. 10,000 or 20,000 women is still nothing, right? So when people talk about the fact that if we measure the impact we've had through all of our partners, somebody once came up with a number of, oh, Ndidi, stop beating yourself up. If we calculate you've impacted 5 million women, you still think to yourself that after almost 20 years, 5 million women is still nothing compared to a population of 200 million. And I can't see it. I can't feel it. We still have as much poverty. So what's the point? And so I took the job with Dangote to head their sustainability and governance, to see whether from the inside out, I would make more of a difference on what I consider to be at the center of economic or business transformation. And I think is one of the greatest opportunities that exist in the world today. So I was in Germany for the last 2 weeks. My mom is still ill. And it's really hot. And there's one air conditioner in the house, but it wasn't enough. And she was getting really bothered. So we sent someone out to get a second one. You won't believe it, but there was no AC and no fan to be bought. And they said, you can order, but it will take some time to come. And I just thought to myself, and I got on a chat this morning, I got something about, renewable energy, power, and air conditioner generation. And I just thought to myself, why is it that right now, Nigeria is not the country with all of our potential, all of our capital, all of our ingenuity and smarts, all of our well-traveled, highly educated population? Why aren't we exporting air conditioners and fans to Europe? Because they can't deal with this heat wave. It's a huge opportunity. Again, we can go into all the issues of costs of production here and our government, etc., but the point is, are we really taking advantage of all the opportunities? And when we talk about diversifying the economy, what I've found is that for me, the greatest potential still remains at that bottom end, the bottom of the pyramid, where the majority of our people are and reside. And that's really where but the connection between 80% of our population and the top 5% is broken. I don't know that it's been connected. And the reason why this diagram is important to me is that somewhere in that economy, which exists within society, which exists within environment, is where the future lies. So one of the first things that I did at Dangote was come up with 7 different pillars to try and tie it all together. And beyond that, to try to find a way in which you can actually measure these things. So for example, one big question that I asked at the top, is there a way that gender equity or gender equality, if that's the common term, or diversity can be measured? Because once you can measure it, you can show impact, and then you can show results, and maybe you can then convince large organizations to begin to invest a little bit more. And how do you connect doing, which is what we actually do out there, and practice? So these last two diagrams are really part of the research that I'm doing right now in terms of connecting those dots. The two things I wanted to end with in terms of opportunities, and I think what I've tried to do, but possibly not done very effectively, is try to tell you how in my own life journey, I've used whatever opportunities there were, whatever work I was doing, to follow my own passion. Sometimes insufficiently, and in the last years, I found that women play an increasingly important role in how I want to express myself. This thing called the rising tide is really just right. So it's a group of women who are taking their own limited resources and investing those resources in other women businesses. What I learned from the Growing Businesses Foundation is working at the bottom of the pyramid was not enough. There are too many women in between poor and rich that are well educated, have great ideas, and actually will thrive even more from mentorship than they will from investment. And so what the Rising Tide Africa tries to do, it's actually a global ecosystem, but what it tries to do is, and I think I left, it created a little structure locally, and it's tried to create a program with investments, education, networking, and mentoring. And so investments, what it does is it does deal days, tries to make 5 to 10 investments per annum. And you must bear in mind that these are ordinary women. They're not investment bankers. They're not big. Some of them are, yes. But each person is really just investing about 500,000 naira to 1 million naira, which pooled together, think of it as an expanded Esusu system, with priority to female founders. Education platforms, so in other words, master classes, women coming together to learn together, knowledge share together, and impact together. Networking, I think the chair at the beginning said, look, these are incredible networking opportunities. Learn from each other. And mentoring, that idea of paying it forward, which is something that I think is a secret that the men have and they haven't told us about. I think they mention it all the time, but I don't think we've really clued in. You know how they say women cannot work together or women will not invest in each other? It's not true. But sometimes it takes actually initiating something to learn it. And the truth is, men can't work with each other either. But they're not as perfectionist as we are. So they're happy to have a buddy who has big flaws. That one never repays his money. He never repays loans. Okay? But they know that's the problem. So if they have a budget of 10,000 naira to give out or $10,000 to give out, they will give him only 1,000. And they will already at the beginning write it off. Okay? So they understand that. We need to learn it. This was my most recent project. In 2018, I realized I wasn't reading enough, and it's my last slide, actually. And I decided I wanted to read more. And I wanted to read more with women, and I wanted to read more about women. So in January, I started a book club. So we just meet. You can see it's a small group of women. And what's funny, we've read some incredible books. It's a very new project. What's funny is this was a woman's book. This was written by a woman. This was written by a woman, written by women. Usually we have the authors come and speak to us also. And then we started here, here, and there's a last one here, which you cannot see. And guess what? Those 3 books are written by men. And they have male protagonists. Again, what I found is that as women, we're much more, but the men aren't. There are many meetings that I sit in where I'm the only female, and you really feel that you're the only woman. And your perspective, which is a very unique, different perspective, is very often shut down. You have to fight to get your voice heard. And this thing called tokenism, where they say, okay, yes, put a woman on the board, it's not enough. Because when you're an only woman on a board of men, it's like deciding that you're just going to torture yourself. So one of the things that's really, really important is this kind of fora where women choose. But you know, it's interesting because it's always with guys. I found that the greatest proponents to women causes are actually the men, because they help us connect our world with that world. And because it's really not about being a woman, it's about the feminine in us as people, which the men have as much as we do, and the male in us. So sometimes out of humor, I have different kinds of shoes, but my man shoes are my favorite shoes. So I'm wearing them today. They're comfortable, they're practical. If there's a fire outbreak, I will leave the building with my shoes on. The women may not, because they have to take them off for heels or they will break. So my last points is I wanted to say thank you, because going through this exercise for me actually caused a lot of self-reflection. And one of the vows that I took was that I will actually spend a little bit more time, which is a weird thing to say, because my older daughter said, Mama, can we have something called black vanity? Why black vanity? Because very often anything that is good, if you haven't heard it yet, go check online for the Muhammad Ali speech, where he very funnily talks about the issue of gender, of diversity and racism. And he says, why is everything black bad and everything white good? So we've decided to call everything good black, and everything, well, we don't really know what it is, white. Okay? So we decided to combine two words, black vanity. And she was saying, Mama, why is vanity bad? Because actually, if you don't know yourself and you don't know your purpose, you notice I'm ending where I started, you can't do anything. Even the Bible says, man, know thyself. It's the beginning of anything. So black vanity and this lecture and this session, really for me, I think what I decided was, one, it's the open book with fascinating stories of others to learn from. The blank canvas, which really lies before us to paint on, to write on, to build on. And above all, this thing called the creative economy and the shared economy. The fact that the workspace is completely changing in order to accommodate the way the world is transforming. Uber is the largest taxi company. Airbnb is the largest hotel company, and yet they own no hotels, they own no taxis, they employ no drivers, they employ no staff. It's a whole new world that we live in. And because women anyway think outside of the box, because we are still outside of the box, it's an advantage that we have. It's an opportunity that we have. And because that feminine, that nurturing, that connecting trait that we have as our feminine side, which is dominant, is what the world needs, I think the most important thing is for us to all embrace black vanity, look at yourself hard in the mirror, create a mind map of who you are, ask yourself where you want to add value and make a difference, and just have the confidence to do it because you love it. And when you love it, nobody will ever stop you from doing what you love, because you will do it regardless. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I think I've come to the realization that whenever I'm around the WGP program, I just want to allow the speakers go on and on. I wish we'll have all day into tomorrow. I would allow Madame to just go on and not end. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndidi Noli Dozin. Let's give her one more round of applause. Thank you so very much. Great insights. She's shared some great nuggets with the women here. We're switching gears now to the next speaker, Managing Director and CEO, AOSOL Limited, Mr. Femi Omotayo.
Um, Thank you very much, Dr. Ndidi. Really, really enjoy that. One thing I wanted to take from that is that, do you realize how many things she has done so far? Yeah? So when somebody says you're doing too much, tell them that you're doing things that match your size, right? And one of the things that people don't do, right, is they don't take up, sorry. One of the things people don't do is they don't take up challenges that matches up to their sizes, right? And I've got some very, very great friends, and especially lady friends, right? And when I see the kind of things they're trying to do, I know a lady that has about 6 businesses, right? And I say to her that you're cheating. She said, "Why am I cheating?" I said, "Because you are not taking up projects that are big enough for you, right? If your project is big enough, you will be really challenged." And I think that's one thing everybody should know. You need to know yourself, right? And you need to be fair to yourself. Please, whatever you do, don't lie to yourself. Okay? Now, back to my topic of the day. They asked me a question beyond oil and gas. Well, there is nothing like beyond oil and gas. Yeah? It's been there for millions of years, and it will still be there for millions of years. I think the key thing for us to do is, how, as a nation, do we leverage oil and gas? Can I have the same privilege as Madam? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, guys, can you hear me? Good. Now, I have an objective today, right? And if I achieve my objective, please let me know, right? And my singular objective is this. Everybody here tomorrow morning will have something to do. Okay? And if I don't achieve that, I have failed. So basically, the key point is this, right? We want to share knowledge and hopefully share some tools, right? And hopefully tomorrow morning, you say, this is what I'm going to do. And that's the very first step of a series of other steps. Okay? Now, when I was in my second year, right, at university, my father called me, right, because I studied mechanical engineering and I wanted to build automobiles, right? And I had that dream since I was 5 years old, right? And I was able to sustain it. But in my second year, my father called me and said, "Funny boy, I don't want you to be a guinea pig. Nigeria is not going to build a manufacturing factory. We are not going to be a vehicle producing nation." I think things have changed a bit, you know. So you have to change. You have to do something that can sustain you. It was probably the most important thing to happen to me, because in second year you are 20 years old, right? And you're wiser, right? So I had an opportunity to look at about 14 different professions, right? At that time it was good to be an accountant, you work for an audit firm, things like that. I tried computing, I tried a lot of things, right? And then at 20 also, I knew I had to make money. Okay? It wasn't only love alone. And when I looked down the list, the only thing I found that could take me back home and support my aspiration was the petroleum. All right? So petroleum is good, and what do we do with it? I'm not saying we're all here because of petroleum, right? That's what it is. That's SPE, Society of Petroleum Engineers. So there are opportunities within the petroleum oil and gas industry. You know, that's the first thing we want everyone to take with them. There are opportunities within the oil and gas industry. The second thing is this, right? You need to know yourself. So what do you want to do? Do you want to be a professional? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to be a community person? You know, so those decisions you really have to make by yourself. Please don't let somebody tell you. Let me share you with you some of how it happens, right? So when you start your career, right, maybe you're fortunate you work for a big company. You know, you work for Shell, right? So when you work for Shell, you get fantastic training program, you get access to information, you get some structure, right? You may not have financial freedom. Okay? Yeah? As you go up in your career, financial freedom may become important, right? And then you may think, I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to share something with you. As an entrepreneur, after about 3, 4, 5 years, financial freedom comes. Then you have another need, which is professional satisfaction, right? Because those your colleagues that you left in Shell have now become vice president, and their ability to write POs is mind-boggling, right? And secondly, they have access to private jets, right? They can take a charter flight to go there. And when they call Schlumberger jumps, right? That's influence. At that point in time, you might now desire also, because you've already had financial freedom, you need to decide, okay, maybe you want the influence of being a big company man. Now, to share with you, if it's the same path that you go through. Your needs changes as you grow up in life. And then you get to a point later on, after you've had the influence, you want to give back, right? So a lot of things that you hear is about sustainability, is about giving back. That's just a way your life progresses, okay? So, going back to this chart, this is beyond oil and gas. It's like those years ago when I had opportunity to look at different industries apart from my original industry. You have ICT industry, right? Now, for me, ICT was made for Nigeria. ICT was made for Nigeria. Let me tell you why. About 20 years ago, people said Lagos State was ungovernable. Do you know why? Because the files were so heavy, right? The information was always getting lost. Everybody they just couldn't get from one state to the end. And then about 20 years ago, somebody started with Oracle. Oracle began to give Lagos State an opportunity to be able to see itself and understand itself and begin to plan better. And you can see that in terms of when they were distributing fertilizers to farmers, right? We had a host of problems for that for a very long time until somebody started with wallets. And all of a sudden, we were able to distribute a lot of things to a lot of people. So ICT, as people say, is made for us, honestly speaking. In Nigeria, that is the biggest and most transformational thing for our country because it enables us to deal with the big numbers, right? Without the physical infrastructure to back it. So that's one option. The other thing, and I'm sure my colleagues will talk about it, is power, right? No nation will grow without power. But the way our power was structured for a very long time, you always get stuck, right? First, it was government owned. Then we had the disco coming. Then we had we've got the mini grid, right? So it's coming down, right? But there's still one more level to go, right? But for me, if we kept it simple, right? We are all paying too much for power today, right? But we're still not receiving the power. I believe if we can collaborate, right? And they allow us to generate maybe 1 megawatt, yeah, for every local government. And we all come together, 10 Nigerians come together, and each one of us generate 100 kilowatts, right? Yeah, I think that's 100 kilowatts, right? 100 kilowatts. And 100 kilowatts is probably your generator in the house. So basically, it actually means if you go to Mama Silifa, Baba John, and you put 10 of you together, you get 1 megawatts, right? And I'm sure you can find 10 of you with that generator in your area. Am I correct? Everybody can find 10 people with this kind of generator in their houses. So if you just expand that for the rest of our country, that's another opportunity, right? Then the other problem you have is billing, right? Okay? it's another opportunity. So with ICT, it's easy for you to build in the power sector. So you can actually start small power companies, right? Now, there are issues surrounding that in terms of how do you find money, right? And we'll talk about collaboration. Then we talked about entertainment. We all know what entertainment has done, right? When we were young, right, we used to go and listen to music from abroad, Kool and the Gang and all those people, right? Now, everybody, even when you go abroad, music you hear. Am I correct? You go to places, it's Nigerian music first. It's amazing how those guys have done. So these are things that we have been doing successfully. If talk about agriculture, you know, I ask myself about agriculture. I said, why agriculture for me is not trendy? Okay, you know, how do I tell my friends that I'm in agriculture? Then I met a young lady. I think her name was Angela Adelaja, right? And I saw her talk about hydroponics, right? Whereby she has a few containers and she was able to grow first. Now this is more trendy, right? So it's just really your approach to agriculture in a different way to make it appeal to younger people. Of course, trade, right? I have a trading background. We started in the Okiari market. We can trade, right? Trade is the most honest form of business. You buy, you sell every day, right? But you have to find something that you think is different, right? And that's something that you think people can want. Now, in business, right? Any of all of these things, they all sound very nice, okay? I've talked about it, sounds very interesting. But the key issue is the process of success is a commitment. Yeah? To succeed is a commitment. You have to apply yourself, and you have to go through very, very challenging times. And most of the times, the solutions are not very clear, right? You have to make sure, you know, you find money to do the business, find processes to do the business. So for me, outside oil and gas, there are lots of things you can do. But please, pick what you strongly believe in and understand that it's going to take a while, right? Also, if you are a professional engineer or professional who is earning good salary today, the minute you decide to cross over, your standard of living is going to crash. Are you with me? Yeah? That holiday to London every year, your Louis Vuitton bag, all those things, the minute you do your first crossover, your standard of living will crash because you have no income. Okay? So, and then you have to be able to sustain that reduced standard of living for a period, which could be up to 2 years. Are you with me? So once you have that in mind, then the rest is easier. Let me just get on with this. Next slide. Now, the key thing for us also that I want us to share that the Nigerian government, which one do I say? Nigerian government, right, have been very good, right? They have created so many funds. You know, you have a Greek fund. There are so many funds that are available. But if you go and check with the central bank, you realize that most of these funds are just sitting down there, right? And do you know why? Nobody has bothered to read the requirements of the fund and complete the documentation. And today, all of us here are very educated, are highly educated. And I think we should take it as upon ourselves to go and acquire knowledge about these funds, right? Don't worry, the first time you may miss it. By the time you fill the form 3 times, trust me. And then you've got easy source of funding for your business. So it's very, very important that all of us, we take an effort to learn about our environment. I thought before I go, should I share something with the guys? So some form of tool, right? That all of us can use, right? Now, I think the key point for all of us, how do we recognize? I've got this thing called Time Aid. Now, this one is locally made, though. Okay, it's not from LSCB or anywhere else. Yeah, it's locally made. It's called Time Aid. Now, basically, it's very simple. We have to train ourselves to recognize the situation of our time. You need to recognize the opportunity of our time. Madam Ndidi was telling us that Uber has no taxis, Airbnb has no hotel, right? That is the opportunity of our time. And we in Nigeria also have to recognize the opportunity of our time. As you also said, you have to leverage your position, right? You need to leverage your associates, I mean your friends, okay? You have to leverage your resources. So these are the kind of things you have to start thinking about. Then you have to develop the spirit to pay for the price of success. And I think I talked about it earlier. You have to, endeavor, strive to be able to succeed. And if you don't have that spirit and the passion for success, it's just, you come back to the same solution. There's a lot of talk about mentorship, right? You can mentor yourself as colleagues. You can also find a mentor. Okay, so these things are very, very important. I will share something. There's a guy here today, he's my mentor, right? And he's such a big guy in Shell. He used to travel around the world. And when he comes back to Nigeria, right, he'll say, Femi, okay, I'm going to be landing. And he will not be available till 12 midnight, right? So where he is, I'll wait till 12 midnight and he'll give me 3 hours. So those 3 hours, so about 3 a.m., they're life changing. I'm fed for about 6 months. Okay, so you need to find a mentor. And whatever suits your mentor, you adapt to it. There's no point in you saying, it doesn't have time for me. Then we have to find a way to empower ourselves, both as an individual and as a collective. More important, we have to collaborate, right? And in Nigeria, we haven't developed the skill set to collaborate. That's in the age. We have to collaborate with one another, form little groups. When you form little groups, your business is likely to succeed. I'm told that statistics say that business cooperatives have 90% success rate in starting a business. So you can collaborate, you can succeed. Then one thing we don't do, we have to learn from the past or learn from people that I know. For example, we have templates. People have done this before. People have done business successfully before. So they need to document, right? And then share that knowledge with the rest of us, okay? So things like marketing, record keeping, those kind of things that are very important. And finally, funding, right? You can fund by so many different means. If you don't have fund, your business will die. No matter how good your idea is, your business will die. So again, try to understand how to fund amongst your friends, how to access funds with third party. And finally, whatever businesses we are going to do, right? The man's basic needs haven't changed, right? They haven't changed. We eat, we need clothing, we need housing, we want mobility, we need good health, we want education, and we want security of life and property. So any business you want to do doesn't have to be part of those 6 that I told you. If it can serve all these needs, right, you also can be in business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Hold your mic back on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Femi Omotayo, Managing Director and CEO of AOS OL Limited. Oil will always be here, but what would you do with the ideas and opportunities before you? He's listed some of them, grab them and run with it. We're switching gears now. We would listen to our role in promoting women and girls in STEM. Of course, yesterday, a couple of awards was giving in that regard. And to take us through this particular presentation is a member of the WDP committee. Please welcome Mrs. Amina Dan Madami.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, since we're all women, I think we can stand on the existing protocol. I mean, women, we always connect, so we don't need all that protocol. Okay, I'm here on behalf of the Women Development Program. And the topic for my presentation is our role in encouraging women and girls in STEM. Okay. I'm sorry, after Dr. Nolly spoke, I lost all my confidence. So, I was like, okay, is this how it's supposed to be done? I'm like, ooh. But I think I can do something. So, thank you. So this is what we're talking about, mentoring the future generation of engineers. Thank you so much. So, Women Development Program, the mission is to promote advancement of women professionals in Nigerian oil and gas sector by providing networking platforms for various SPE opportunities. So we've been doing this for quite a couple of years, and this year we decided to do something different. And we introduced the WD Girl in STEM Leadership Award. This award is meant to encourage young girls coming up in STEM, young girls who are doing well academically, who have leadership skills. So we had nominations from different universities, and then 6 girls were nominated from various universities in Nigeria. So why the STEM buzz? Why is it important? STEM is very important because the world depends on it. The economy, our general well-being, is all backed by STEM. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's the bedrock of manufacturing, food production, healthcare, transport, everything we can think about. So, and STEM education creates critical thinkers, which enables innovation, and innovation needs to new products, processes. So this is why STEM is very important. And from the McKinsey LinkedIn studies, it was said that 80% of jobs in the next decade will be based on STEM technology. So we can see why STEM is really important. So, but then why do we have so few females in the STEM? We remain underrepresented, 13%. I can relate to that coming from the North. I'm from the Northeast, and we have one of the lowest statistics. So when Dr. Nolly was speaking about going to the best schools, having access to education, in my mind, I was like, it was so tough for me even getting to go to school. Because by 9 years old, in where I'm coming from, things have changed now, but then during my time, by 9 years old, most of the time, you're getting married. Only 1 in 10 girls go on to secondary school. The story is a bit different now, but it was really tough then. So I was thinking when she said she had the opportunity to go to school, I was like, lucky you, because I had to beg uncles. One of my uncles couldn't relate to the fact that I had to go all the way to Zaria to learn oil. I studied chemical engineering. When my aunties in the village were making oil, why did she have to go all the way to Zaria? So you see, so it was a struggle, and I was the first from that family. Just to give you an idea, my father is the last born. Imagine the normal Hausa family, 3 wives, each with 10 children. My father last born, and then I being the first to go to university. It was a great feat. So which is the story, So all of this is because of gender stereotyping. We belong to the Zaoza room. And then math anxiety. But studies have shown that girls do equally well in mathematics, but we do better in verbal ability. I'm sure the men will relate to the verbal ability bit. So we really have no reason not to do well in STEM, but because of negative peer pressure, lack of role models, and stereotyping, we end up not being represented well enough in STEM. And there's need for females in STEM. Diversity, larger pool. When you have 100 people to pick from, you're more likely going to pick good talent compared to when you just have 10. Moreover, women have a different perspective to things. We bring new perspectives to things. And then studies by Goldman and Sachs also showed that economies improve when you have women. They conducted some studies, and female employees consistently outperform their competitors. So really, women are good for business. Then inspiration, we need to inspire the younger generation because it's the youth that are key to the future. So that's why we're bringing this campaign here. It's a call to action, to encourage more women in STEM, to improve our economy for the future. We can do that by things like I'm sorry, I'm picking up on you. Everything is about Dr. Nolly. Things we do programs for women, have fairs, career fairs, because you can't be what you can't see. When we have fairs like that, people see the potential, the possibilities, and then they do that. Like all these SPE activities, panel sessions, workshops, campaigns, they all help. So the message I want to leave here is that we should all do our part to encourage women in STEM by giving them role models, information, and platforms for discussion. And we need to make them know that the world really needs them. Thank you very much.
That's something. Keep the applause coming, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. For Mrs. Amina Madami, I tell you what. Madam called me yesterday evening and said, how can I do this? I have not done this before, and I'm not used to this. How do you do it? And after a few minutes of conversation, I said to her, I said, there is one thing I'm sure of, Madam. You will do beyond your wildest expectations. Then she asked me one question. She said, how do I break the ice? I said, don't worry, it will come to you. Did it come to her? Well done, well done. And thank you, Doctor. Thank you so very much. That was remarkable, really remarkable. All right, so we switch gears now to the next presentation. But remember where she ended, call to action. I started with our call to action. WDP with in SPE, through the NAIS and many other platforms, they are doing so much for young women. So much. I mean, our keynote speaker told us of the remarkable things she has done. And at one time, she was told that if it is properly checked, she would have affected 5 million people. Yes, it might not be enough, but if we can replicate your kind in 20 places, that's 20 times 5 million. We'll be gradually touching the nearly 200 million people who do that. So the women here at SPE are really doing this, and we want you to support it so that they become another branch of Dr. Edozie. We need to support them. Don't wait until you are working for Shell, Chevron, or for some oil company, or you're in your private business. From where you are, trust me, you can help, you can start. Whatever you can give, continue. But I'm talking especially now to those who are working already. Start, call them aside, write a check, make it a standing order if you may, but do something, okay? Let's support it. I will be part of those people that will be giving you that money you gave those girls yesterday. If it's just one of the ladies, I will add. So let's make it 7. I'll bring one. Let's make it 7, all right? Let's make it 7. Let's talk about that later. We can just gradually keep doing that like that. Okay, thank you very much. So we're making progress. We're making quick and steady progress. For the next 10 minutes, another presentation. Remember, a lot has been said about our resource persons by Mrs. Chukuneke. I'm just bringing them up to speak. She's talking to us this time on improving your personal effectiveness using Kaizen. She is the Transformation and Business Improvement Manager, Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company. Please welcome Dr. Adeton Mustafa. Please give her the lapel mic.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for some of my colleagues and my ex-colleagues that are here just to listen to this. I'm really grateful. This presentation is actually dedicated to Honyi, who is the chair of WDP. And when Ndidi was talking about how you make impact, some years ago, the young talent, top talent in the company, I was called upon to do something to develop them. I was head of CI. So I just on my own created a program. I did not know it would get to that. But Honyi told me today that did you realize what you did at that time? Because she led one of the work stream. Then when she came up with this topic and said, madam, you have to come and talk about this. I said, how did you marry Kaizen, which is a process oftentimes we use in the business sector? How do you marry it with this? And okay. Sorry. I did. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I did. So why do you need Kaizen? The word is actually pronounced Kaizen. And it's a Japanese word that means good change or rudely constant, continuous improvement. I'm going to talk through all this in a very short while. When you ask a lot of people, wherever stage in life they are, people set goals for themselves. And at a point in time, they achieve that goal and sometimes relax. And people don't improve. I had a sort of interview with a very senior person outside this country last week. And I did not realize that what prompted me into doing what I'm doing is actually a personal thing. My father was the first person to import damask into the whole Western region. He's an accountant. He didn't have a university degree, but he did all this. So I'm Ijebu, so we are always in trade and business. So he wanted to do business with his accounting practice. So he imported damask into the whole Western region. It was a big deal to be a pioneer where Ijebu people will love party. So damask is in vogue for you. So for him to be, but with time, he lost that space. Things did not go on well. Looking back now, from what I know, it is simply because he was not reacting to the external environment. Once you succeed in one thing, every other person will want to toe that line. So what brought you to that thing will not take you beyond where you are. So you really need to improve. So even if you've done so well for yourself and you're somewhere, if you do not grow, other people will grow, you will become obsolete. And if I ask many of us, do you still have a black and white television in your house? You will say, when things are obsolete, you can keep them for emotional memory for some time. But at the end of the day, you will throw it away. So if you don't want to, even if you are at the peak of what you think you've set for yourself, stagnation in life leads to degeneration and obsolescence. And that is something you need to keep in mind. So what do you improve? You can improve anything you care about. At every stage in life, there is something that is important to you. It could be improving relationship. It could also mean writing a book, learn a new skill. We're talking about opportunities beyond oil and gas. You might be an accomplished professional. What else is there to do for you? And you could have a successful business. But the question is, in the next 20 years, this business that revolves only around you, will it survive when you are no more? Or when you are not able to be, you don't have the energy that you have for now. Don't forget, I mentioned that if you don't grow, other people will grow, they will surpass you, and you become less relevant. That is just the reality of life. So anything that is important to you, it's what can improve. I've talked about good change. I know change is a very sensitive word in Nigeria now. Please, I'm talking about Kaizen. I'm not talking about any political party. Kaizen in Japanese means good change or constant continuous improvement. So the topic of today, personal effectiveness, is about better you. And using Kaizen is about utilizing the tools of good change to become better you. What is personal effectiveness? The commonest one, a lot of people can relate to it, is the one from Stephen Covey, and it talks about 7 habits. Personal effectiveness is about practicing, cultivating, and practicing habits that enable you to achieve your goal and give you the success that you define for yourself. It's about what is valuable to you, what are your principles, what do you want to achieve. So if you need to develop habits, one good tool to do that for habits that will last is Kaizen. And why is it important? Decades of research have shown that people generally resist change. Nobody wants to change. And especially extreme change don't last. About 95% of people that go on weight loss with special diet and what have you, or extreme discipline of going to exercise and what have you, they don't last. But what you do in a way that look seemingly unimportant over time, that become a lifestyle, that become an habit, are the things that you sustain and you live by. So Kaizen is a way to take away the frustration you have by going for extreme change to small step at a time change for anything that is important to you. And how do you do this? The step to the continuous improvement is first of all to determine what you wish to achieve and why. Please, it is very, very important. When the lady here was talking about my profile, was mentioning, I told somebody they are my colleagues at work, so don't mind them. They are just trying to be funny. When a lot of people, I teach a lot of PhD students or assess them, and they tell me, and you ask, why do you want to do a PhD? Anybody that wants to do a PhD because you want to become a doctor, most likely you won't finish that PhD. Because there's even faster way to become a doctor anyway. You can buy one, you can do whatever one. Because at the end of the day, the discipline and what you will face along the way will make you abandon it. So know why you want to do, what do you want to improve on, and why. A good change is one that has a reward. If you cannot define the reward in what you want to improve, then why bother? There must be something in it for you to have. So you're not just changing for changing's sake, but you are changing to achieve a particular reward. So define what is the goal, what is this. And one of the things Kaizen does is, it also asks you, what is stopping you from achieving this goal? The whole principle of continuous improvement is about eliminating waste. And what we call waste are simply what does not add value to the goal you want to achieve. There are meetings or places you go to. If you take a log of your activity in 1 week, when people tell me they have issue with work-life balance, I look like it's not important to you. Whatever is important to you, you will have time for it. Anything that is important to you, you will have time for it. Everything that you felt is not, you don't have time for. When you take inventory over time, they are actually, what you don't have time for, they are not important. So nobody, sorry for using this example. If you need to use the bathroom, you will find time for it. It's just, even, I used to, one of my life, I've been in the waste management, and I tell people, every home has a waste management facility. In our bedroom, many of us have our bathrooms, our ladies and gents inside the bath. So it is so important. So you'll find time for it because it's a call of nature, and you know you needed to take the time to do it. So it is about. So what is a waste? Waste is once you define the goal and the reward you want to achieve, whatever is not contributing to it is a waste. I'll give an example later. The next thing you do is to create a system. And I like it in the dimension creating a structure. I think my personality, I'm the kind of a person that loves structures. What I mean structure is, when I come into a place and you cannot repeat things, you can't improve it. I will create a lot of structure, either in the way you manage your document, in the way you set up, in the way you do your meetings. I saw Chike laughing. He just told everybody that I made him work it. I just need to, because it is when you create structure, you can see when you are not doing well and what you need to improve. When there is chaos, you can't There is an exercise we actually do in continuous improvement. We call it 5S. It enables you to see that when you have chaos, you can't improve. So you first of all need some level of orderliness before you can improve anything. So then you create system or behavior patterns to achieve that goal. That behavior pattern is a system. So it is not about focusing on the goal. What you're actually doing at the system, and I'll give an example. What you then do is to break it down to small enough parts. And that is the reason why when people say, I will walk 15 miles a day, every day of the week, summer, winter, and everything, it doesn't work. How many resolutions last beyond, your New Year resolution last beyond January? So when some people, they say, maybe you say you want to read your Bible in a year, you are on holiday, beginning of January, and you start. Then you resume work in February. Then everything goes out of the window. So those are the kind of things. So break it down into small enough parts, things that you can accommodate in your typical standard day. Small things that you can do. Make small improvements. Continue to do that, the small parts, for nothing less than empirically 21 days to become a habit. Continue to increase it yet. There is a tendency. One of the things when I facilitate brainstorming session is people have ideas, and then instead of developing roadmap and getting it, before they develop the roadmap or even implement it, another idea come, another one come, another, and they end up not doing anything. They are just talking. There is a time you just cut off and say, okay, let's work this one before we start generating another one. So make the small improvements stick. And then review the progress. How am I doing about it? I want to, and let me give an instance. If I want to, my office resumes 7, and I live in a place that takes like 30 minutes until the trailers started occupying majority of the road. I just returned back. I live about 22 years in Niger Delta. I grew up in Lagos, but when I came back to Lagos, it has become another Lagos. It has changed. Trailers now take over the road, and it's become another thing to move. So if I want to get to work by 7, I will need to wake up by 5. And I will need to leave the house about 6. I'm somebody that walk because I have many lives. So I have a lot of personal, social responsibility, professional this, professional that. So I need to work either late or create time to do other things. So I don't often get home early or as I like to. So if I need to say I want to work, or sometimes I'm writing a paper or reviewing something online or doing meetings with different people in different parts of the world where it's their own morning and it is my own night or so. So if I want to wake up 5 and I say I want to wake up, what I need to do, why do I want to wake up 5? My goal is because I want to be able to get to work at 7. In addition to my base workload, create time for professional development, write paper for SPE like this. So I want to clear my inbox, do what I need to do, and still create time for it. So I do that. That is my goal. So what do? I do not start. I'm going to start small. And what I will do is, I will wake up 5 o'clock every day. I will start with Monday because I have Saturday and Sunday. And most likely, I will be well rested. I'll do a lot of things. So Monday, I will start doing it every Monday. With time, after about a month, I will add a Thursday. The roads are free. Midweek, I will have coupled a lot. So I will do that until I've achieved Mondays and Thursday. I live by it for about 3 months before I start saying, I will have a Wednesday, I will. If I say I will do it every day, I will deceive myself because I will not be able to achieve it. And those are the things, what I mean by doing this. Then when you want to create the system, what are the things that make me not to be able to wake up at 5 a.m.? And it includes the time I sleep. And it includes what are the devices I use. Still doing WhatsApp until around 1 a.m. Or listening to news. So one of the things I decided when I was trying to do this, I love news. I'm a news person. I can move from CNN to BBC channels and just be listening to news, glued to news. Is no even 10 o'clock news again on Sunday. So leave it. You can always read it on a app or what have you. So I create a system around me. So my goal is not the 5 o'clock, but what are the things I need to do? What is the last meal of the day? When is the last chore of the day has to be? Those are the systems that will actually change my behavior. Then I make the small improvement Monday first, then Thursday. Then when I sustain that repeatedly for a long period before I now had other days, then I review the progress. And then I say, in the last 3 months, how have I done? I use my phone to record things. Then when I look at it, I check, I then adjust and start all over again. And that is what continuous improvement is all about. So in summary, what do you need to do? What will you do if you are not afraid? Because one of the things that prevent people from improving is fear. And these are often things that are not real. One of the things I've found about us is that, especially Nigerian, the resilience and the ability to make things happen, it is unbelievable. You can surprise yourself. From tomorrow, ask yourself, what do you want to improve? What opportunities beyond oil and gas? You know, my heart bleeds. He was talking about, Mr. Mata was talking about the CBN. There are lots of fund there and nobody is applying for it. It's not only fund. You go for scholarships. I sit on board of some scholarships. And where are all these women in STEM? Where are they? You won't find them. So you ended up either not giving the scholarship or giving it to even people that do not deserve it, because the one that you know are very good, they won't even take the effort to apply. So please, develop a system. What is the goal you want to achieve? What extra thing do you want to achieve in order not to be obsolete? Develop system to achieve the goal. Take small steps to do it repeatedly. Review, adjust, and then improve continuously. And at the end of the day, you will also be making impact. And you can tell it. One of the things that I'm so inspired with Ndidi is she wants to do something. This year she said, I thought I was the only one. Now I have an inspiration. I thought I put my hands into too many things. I haven't. She wants to do, she said she wanted to read. She just decided she wants to read. And she started the book club. How many of us, see, you can imagine the amount of ideas and things that we can do to become, how many Ndidis are latent in many of us that are seated there? Please bring out the Ndidis and let's impact the world together. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much. Without much ado, I yield the floor to our moderator, Mrs. Habiba Ali, Managing Director and CEO of Sosei Renewables.
Thank you so much.
Took my father's business to talk.
Okay. All right. I think that's a good idea. Hi. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for sitting with us. I'm sure some of you are beginning to see the strength of women and how interesting this session has been. I've been taking down a lot of notes, and I must thank the women of WODAP for inviting me, because for me, it's actually been a pleasure and an opportunity to be here, more than actually giving whatever it is that I have to give. And thank you so much, Dr. Noli, and thank you so much, Madam and Oga. Thank you. One thing that I've learned from, the three speakers that have spoken now, I'll just try to put it together so that, I may probably be speaking your mind, but maybe I may be pointing out a couple of things that are new to you. I know now, from being at the EDC, the Lagos Business School, and a few other places that have, come up, that the opportunities in Nigeria for women are really, really huge. As a woman entrepreneur, as a woman business leader, as a woman learner, as a woman mentee, there's so many opportunities. And like Madam ended her talk with, a lot of times people just don't know, or they just deliberately don't apply. I call it sometimes when an opportunity lies in front of a woman's face, I throw it out there. A lot of people come to me, oh, I want to be mentored. I want to be mentored. And sometimes you send them a couple of opportunities that could actually help them, launch from whichever part they are at, but they don't take it. I call it laziness. I mean, the will, and it boils back to the same thing that was said, the will to want to grow. That woman thing that, I think I'm just okay here. Oga is taking care of the bills, no problem. I think this 10,000 naira per month is fine. That's why she can actually, there's a lot of women like that, seriously. You may not be, but then there are. I have a friend who actually started a business being the sole distributor to a couple of companies that bring in, when packed drinks started becoming the in thing. She started that business. She left her banking job to start that business. As soon as the business clocked 10 million in turnover, she got scared and handed it over to her husband. Last year, I was at their end of year party. The husband gave one of his staff a car. So imagine she was the one still running that business. And she's now gone back to become what? She owns an event management business and she cooks. I'm not belittling what she's doing, but there's this fear when we get to a certain turnover that we don't want to just move on. And that is one thing that I really took away from what she has said. It's 10,000 naira, it's 20,000 naira now. Why can't you grow it to 200,000 naira in 3 years? The Igbo man starts a small business selling tires. And before you know it, he has grown it to a multi-million naira business. I always take an example from one Igbo guy that I knew when he was serving his master. Because I followed the then my to-be husband to buy a tire with his friend from his shop. And he was a boy then. So as good as the time I was starting my business, he was also starting his own. But where that guy is today is not where I am. He's speaking in multi-millions of dollars. He no longer has to go to the shop. He has several boys there. So there's that thing about us, and I'm not saying I'm not part of it. It's just as if, okay, I've gotten there, it's enough. And we need to find a way to stick with it, create those structures that actually grow it, build those networks of common-minded people. That really struck me. The networks we build, do you know what Oga did yesterday? I went through his phone. I saw this, I saw that. That's the networks we build. Yes. We need to go beyond what is Oga doing, because he's actually not at your level. He's not thinking what you are doing. How many women do their husbands really look at their phones? They are thinking beyond that. So we need to build such networks that actually grow beyond those petty things and build networks that think about not just what you are going to gain. Just like we're those nurturers who like to build, we like to think of other people before we think of ourselves. Think about a lot of people before you think about yourself. Because if you limit yourself to just that one thing, then, okay. So another thing is, I would like to just end this. I just wanted to pull together what the women have said, what the panelists have said, and just make sense of it. Anyway, before I go, before I sit down, because I want to sit down and allow Madam Ale to say something. There's a lot of things that have happened talking about women inclusion, talking about men, talking about Nigerian economy diversifying. I want her to tell me from what she has heard so far today, what her ideas are, because she comes from a point where she's quite highly placed, and I'm sure a lot of women here will learn from what she has seen, and what can she recommend, what has she seen here today, and make sense to her, and she can actually add on to from her own experience as a woman that's in STEM. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, because we have some men amongst us, well, one of the speakers said, women connect, so there's no protocol. So I would have said all protocols of that. We've listened to all the presenters and the spoken well, but for me, all that has been said here today just come down to two key words, and that is commitment and action. Before I go on, I want to remember my mom of blessed memory. She would say, if you come back and say, oh, Mom, that job is too hard, I don't think I can do it. For her, there's no boy, there's no girl in the house. She treats us the same. The boys would go and make amala or go and make soup. The girls will sweep, the boys will go to the stream. So there's a timetable in the house. So I want to believe I took my growing up from that. So same thing in my house, there's no boy, there's no girl. So that hurt me a lot. People used to say that I'm a man in woman's skin. Maybe they're right. So my mom would say, go back there. But she will ask first, do people do the job? And if you say, yes, people do it, she will say, go back. And then crying, whatever, she don't want to get, just go there, go and do the job. So that's the kind of environment I grew up. So going back to what my sisters have said, I've told you that all they said for me is just two words: commitment that leads to action, or action and commitment. For me, they are the same. Why do I say so? As a woman, as a girl, as a lady, it's commitment that will make you to focus on whatever you need to do in life, despite all the problems, despite all the issues. When you are committed, when you'll be focused. And I read somewhere where someone also said that if you want to create a thing, invite a man. But they want that thing done, put a woman there. So little wonder that in the recent times, our government has started putting women in charge of finance. Some of us who could think back, you know, when women are there, you get action. That is not to say that men can't do it, but it's just that they have too many considerations sometimes, and that holds them back. So for me, if you are committed, you will see opportunities. You will see opportunity despite all the roadblocks, despite all the problems, you will see opportunities. Now, when I was being introduced, you were told I worked in several arms of NNPC, ranging from research to science to, I can fit in anywhere. Maybe my corporation have come to know that I'm kind of a problem solver. So they take me to very top places. For me, the first thing I see there, I see the people there as my family. Before I came to Port Harcourt, my last posting was in Kaduna. Who are posted there before me. And they lobbied themselves back. No, not for me. Anywhere you take me, I survive there. Because the first thing I see there is, this is my family. When you are seeing a desert, I see gold. When you are seeing failure, I see success. So, that's what I mean by commitment. And when you're committed, you see the way to go through that thing, that issue, that problem, or go around it. When you are committed, it will make you to invite people and lift other women, and indeed men. Because for me, I don't believe this is a man, this is a woman. I treat everyone the same. Because I believe what a woman can do, A man can do. What a man can do, a woman can also do, even better. And that's why I agree with Dr. Ndidi. It's not gender equality, it's opportunity. So I agree with her on that. And that's the way I think all of us women in this room, and even outside, because I believe some of us will carry this crusade. You carry it beyond this forum. That's the way we should think. See yourself first as a human being, not a woman. Because the same way your parents send your brother to school is the way they are sending you to school. If a man can learn mechanics at the local shop, if you don't have the opportunity to be educated, formal education, you can do it. You can honestly do it. Never look down on yourself that, oh, I'm a girl. So what? So what?
Okay, ma'am, I must actually, let me quickly chip this in because it's not about the topic we're talking about. How do we, from your experiences, you just finished telling us how you move from any part they put you in the NNPC, you can actually fit in. How do we, from your experience, can we build those workplaces that can actually work for women? You know, with our peculiar personal issues, how do you, can you advise that this can actually help work for us?
Yeah, for me, like I said earlier, you should always see the place that wherever your small corner or wherever you're taking to or wherever you find yourself, what you see there is gold. You be positive. You see opportunities. And that way you can make waves. That way you can be successful. That way you can move, the organization or wherever you find yourself forward. That way you can encourage people. That way you can improve the processes. That way, in business, you can make profits.
Thank you very much for that. As a last, discussion, there's this work-life balance that has always been a huge topic for the women. And I would want you to, Dr. Edozian and Mrs. Mustafa, Dr. Mustafa, to just say one thing, one sentence about what your experiences are and what you can advise the women here in managing this, the inclusion in the workplaces.
Right.
Mrs. Mustafa.
Okay, so for me, work-life balance, and I mentioned it while I was talking. It's, first of all, know what is important to you. At every stage in life, there are things that are important. There is a stage you are building a business. There is a stage the business is not going to be in the same stage forever. Know what stage of life you are. What are the things that can aid you to achieve that? I was telling somebody, when I was doing a PhD, I was under 40. There was a day in 3 days I didn't sleep. I didn't know I did not sleep because I needed to submit. I was working, so I needed to write up and submit. And if I missed that deadline. But if I don't sleep for 1 day at this age, the following 3 days, I will still be, you will think I'm ill. So there is a stage in life for everything. So work-life balance is about knowing what stage in life you are and what are the things you need to do and what are the help you can get. There is a network of help, especially for those of us that have an extended family kind of setting in Africa. There is a lot of help out there, and that is where the network also comes into the equation. That what are the network we can leverage to have a balanced life?
So including them in,
Okay, I think my addition to that would be, it really is a culmination of everything else. So let me add to commitment and action. Let me add 2 terms, attitude and perseverance, those 2. And if your attitude is, again, this is something that I think women are very good at intuitively. Work-life balance is constructed around a very male-centric workspace, okay, where the men very often have the privilege of a wife at home who is doing the work of nurturing the children. And quite frankly, the work, you know, when I said earlier, how do we measure gender equity so that it is seen in the bottom line? Because when you can understand the financial implications of something, there is an incentive to change it, right? Likewise, if there was a wage that was paid to women nurturers who build the next generation, there will be a different value on mothering. Now, if a lot of the time when people say, Ndidi, what do you do? What I generally answer is mother. And I don't answer it to avoid the question. I answer it because it's the most important work that I do. And before I took the job at Dangote, I worked for myself for 12 years, earning more than I do right now, simply because my children were younger. And I needed the work-life balance to do my primary job right. But now here's my where I land. There are a lot of women in the workplace now. Remember when I said I don't think it should be equality, it should be equity. Men did not have to solve this problem because they didn't have the problem. Because they went to work and they were supported by women, just like many women now are supported by men. Exactly. To give everything to work, right? Likewise, women now have to help to change the culture in the workplace. For example, there should be parking spaces closer, I read this in a book somewhere, to where the office is for pregnant women, simply because, okay? There should be the options of flexible work hours for women or parents with kids so they can avoid the 2.5-hour rush hour traffic, get their kids into school safely, and still put in the hours that are needed. These changes will come led by those who know where the shoe pinches. And if we don't speak up, it won't happen. It's not a women thing, it's a workplace thing. And men will back it more even than women once they understand it.
Yeah, totally.
And that is our responsibility. In addition to that, it's our responsibility to position ourselves as women, as somebody who is open and nurturing to other women. You will not believe that very often, the reason why I got up to hug our colleague presenter, whose presentation I loved, is because it was devastating to me to think that because I had spoken, and maybe because I speak from the heart, I speak easier, and I don't even think I presented that well, that presentation would have been intimidating to another woman. That's a devastating thought. So really, we should be an inspiration to each other. And when we realize that we're not, then if we step out and say, look, I may not understand this, but I'm here. And if we stand up and people know that they will fight for each other, it may not be your problem now, but guess what? It may be your problem tomorrow, or your daughter's problem day after tomorrow. So we must fight for it now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndidi. With that statement, I think I will bring this panel to close because Dr. Ndidi has succinctly been able to tell you that building workplaces that work for women starts with us. A good change is one that has a reward. Don't forget that. So as we work in our workplaces and we want to see that change, let us know that our attitudes, our commitments, and our actions are what is going to change it. Define your goal. Thank you. I will now take questions.
Yes, please, let's take questions from intervention. Of course, the questions have been sent in via the Q card. or the mobile app. What we have for now is just questions from the Q card, none from the mobile app. And I'll leave Mrs. Chantel Chize. Mrs. Chantel is a member of the Women program. She will guide us through the Q&A. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much to our distinguished speakers. That has been a very inspiring session, especially towards the end when the women got really charged. So I'll just take the questions that we have on the cards now. I'll take a few of them. The first question is, our girls need to know about STEM. How can we get our girls to know about STEM? And this question is from Dr. Nwaba from UNIBEN. And I think I'll pass it on to Dr. Mustafa.
So how do we get our girls to know about STEM? It's by everybody speaking that it's the future and the bedrock of development. Please, if you are in a position of authority and you need to sponsor things, don't sponsor. I'm not saying entertainment are not good, but when it comes to mathematics competition, you give them 25,000. And Big Brother goes home with how much?
25 million.
How many of us seated here watch? There is a milk. They have this mathematics, cowbell milk mathematics competition. How many of us watch it, encourage our children to watch it, and promote it as we promote Big Brother Africa online or Arsenal and Man U? So please, it is by us role modeling it, saying it, because like many of us, most girls will take over what their parents talk about. I just noticed something among all of us, even though all of us. Mrs. Ale, she talked about her mother. I talked about my father. She talks about her mother. Everybody has something to say. So it is the way we shape people's opinion, it's unimaginable. So please, when we promote it, we'll encourage the girls to be interested in them.
Okay, thank you very much. This question is for Dr. Nolly Odozian, and it's from Obuli Ngozi. So she has feedback for you. She appreciates your insightful and thought-provoking session. Your talk was very thought-provoking and insightful. And the question that she has is, what have you to say on the issue of having these potentials, insights, without having support or encouragement from government, organization, or individuals? How does one go about it?
Okay, the first observation I wanted to make was that, this issue of gender equity and inclusion, in our closing panel, we excluded the man.
Actually, we were not supposed to talk again, but I just knew that being a woman thing, the women will speak that louder.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, he's taking the wrath of all the men who've excluded the women. And we are sorry about that. The point is, it happens all the time. Attitude and perseverance are really the answer to that question. Nobody is going to give it to you. You're going to have to get up and get it. A lot of the time, as women, what we do is, for example, if this was an all-men's panel with one woman, the likelihood is no man is going to say, oh, we excluded the woman, right? But we always will. So the question is, how do we, among ourselves, expand that nurturing network to other women, knowing where the shoe pinches? Secondly, the thing is, it always seems as if government, institutions, and individuals have helped the person who was successful. Because a lot of the time, successful people don't tell their sad stories. They don't tell you about their failures. They don't tell you about their struggles. I didn't tell you that, I was at Queen's College, and if I didn't get a scholarship to do A-levels in the UK, I wouldn't have gone to do A-levels in the UK. If I didn't get the scholarship to go to the London School of Economics, I wouldn't have gone to the London School of Economics. If I didn't get a scholarship to do my PhD in Germany, I wouldn't have gone to do my PhD in Germany. So, it's very easy, and I'm sure that sounds surprising. It's very easy to presume that the people who are sitting up and talking had an easier way than you did. A lot of the time they didn't. So again, to answer the question, it's attitude. Nobody can stop you if you've made up your mind you want to do something, and if you know it's your thing, look in the mirror and find out what it is that you really, really love. And then see every single obstacle in your path as a hurdle or as a means to get to the next level, a stepping stone. Don't see it as an obstacle. And then the last thing is, once you've got your path, don't give up. You just have to keep persevering. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody, neither government, no organization, no individual. You've got to get it for yourself.
Thank you. We have a few questions here for you, Dr. Nole-Edozie, and they have a common theme. So I'll just go ahead and just ask you. Yeah. So it's really so someone would like to know how to get the benefits of GBF, and another lady is asking about she's seeking mentors. So all those things, Rising Tide, those things you mentioned, are they open to the public, or how do people get on those opportunities? So there's a common theme to the questions.
GBF is very much the bottom of the pyramid. It tends to run programs that a corporate entity sponsors, because you've got to think about the fact of sustainability. So it's tried to move away from charity where it's just giving. It's not a foundation like Aliko Dangote Foundation or Tony Elumelu Foundation that is endowed with a lot of money. What it tries to do is connect those who have with those who don't have. I don't think anybody in the room here is really a micro entrepreneur, which is what GBF focuses on. But if you are, and if you have networks there, please go online. If you do info@GBFNG, I'll get the mail. The second side, Rising Tide Africa, has two different sides. It's women who are investor mentors, and it's women who are investees mentees. And the idea there is to connect people who have a little bit of money to pool, to invest in other women and men who have impact on women, who have a business idea. Very often that business idea is not yet ready. Very often that business idea actually needs somebody to challenge you. That's why I said the men don't tell us their biggest secret, which is mentorship. Very often men will tell you, men that have this thing called my boy, okay? No matter what you do, your guy who is backing you will back you to the very end, will cover your sins, will help you get through it. If you ever watch this thing called Suits, the Meghan Markle, what he does, okay, namely to walk through fire, that kind of loyalty is what helps many, many men succeed. And when you have somebody who's covering you in that way, there is so much you will do for others. It's a pay it forward system. We have to figure out how to do it. Let me just say one last thing that I find very, very sad. I find it very sad that men who mentor women very often take advantage of, that, especially in this country, in terms of sexual favors and so on. So a lot of the time, women don't go to men because there's always this angle. And I think it's a big shame. And I think it's something that really has to stop. And I think that women also have to learn to be able to step up to say no. Right? But we have to tell each other that. We really, really do. And I think a lot of the time we also need to recognize that men don't necessarily, it's not that they want to do it. I'm not making excuses for you. It's just that, sometimes it's irresistible, or call it whatever you want. And they're actually very grateful to hear no. Shockingly, right? But I think we need help from the men on building strong and good mentoring systems. And we need to get away from this ideal of perfection. We're too hard on ourselves. If we're so hard on ourselves, we'll be just as hard on others, right? So GBF, Rising Tide, they both have info at, or there's ndidi@gbfng.org. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Motayo, let me quickly include you now. Somebody's question is from Isioma Asiodotua. What are you currently doing to make AOS Orwell an inclusive workplace for women?
Oh,
Good question.
please stand up. I think one of the things we're doing is really at the leadership level, right? I think my colleague just stood up, so our first female executive director for the company. And I think there are not many Nigerian companies that have done that, right? So Charlotte is got a fantastic track record. I think we should have some mentees here because Charlotte is ambitious. She's I think the first time the next day she joined us, she sent me a mail. Hey boss, I'm going to Harvard. I'm like, oh, come. That was not in the negotiation. Mainly that's very expensive, So that's kind of level that Charlotte aspires to. So in our company, we're very, very focused on diversity, right? I think my father died when I was 33. Okay, 3 years ago when I was 18, and my mother brought 7 of us up. My mother, whatever she does, whether it's politics to the top, whether it's trading to the top, whether it's church to the top, whatever she does, right, she gets to the top, right? And my mother sets her own agenda. So in our company, right, we worked assiduously to break the ceiling, right? And one of the things I've done is there was a time we recruited a lot of female graduates, and they disappeared. They're in the system, but they disappeared. These are people that we picked up that are thorough. And one of my job is, guys, where did these people go? Somehow in year 1, year 2, year 3, and then everybody disappears. So it's something that really, with HR, we're consciously trying to first look after the ones we have developed, right? And help them connect, right? In terms of leadership, female managers, we have about maybe 30% female managers. But the problem we have is not female managers, it's female technical managers. 2 different things, right? So we have procurement, which is female, we have HR, which is female. And what is actually very shocking, right, is you have a female engineer, right? And they start off female engineers. And after 1 year, everybody wants to be in HR.
The coffee zone.
Pardon?
Coffee zone.
Coffee zone, yeah. Because look, I have so many female engineers at day 1, and then by year 5, everybody is struggling to go into HR, compliance, and it's very devastating because we, even now, ladies going to the rig, something we're really trying to promote, right? But maybe we have to find a way to make it comfortable for the ladies. Because you go to the rig sometimes, the accommodation is not very comfortable. It's not private enough. There are other issues that the ladies say. But as a company, right, we try to really encourage diversity. And we try to encourage that we have our women in every aspect of our business, not just certain aspect of our business. But it's not very successful yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Please, let's give high round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Chantel. Yeah. Now, very, very quickly, we're going to, and this is a very special event every year for NAIS, and this year is no exception because every year we'll have the International President for Society of Petroleum Engineers. I think it was last year that we had a lady. Is it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Last year, yes. The SPE 2017 president was a woman, and she came and addressed this wonderful women. And this year is a gentleman, and he's going to speak to us very briefly. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome SPE 2018 president, Mr. Dr. Daisy Spady.
You should come and shake your panelists
In
before
fact,
you start.
we'll ditch the protocol. I like women's events because they ditch the protocol. I'm very comfortable here. We'll ditch the protocol. And I want to say that in the 4 years of named SPE presidents, that means the 3 of us that are currently on the board and the 1 nominated, we are 50% women.
Okay.
So the one place in my corporate life where we're actually hitting the target, Janine was last year, I'm this year, Sammy's next year, and Shauna Noonan has been all the SPE presidents are women. So we're finally there. And that's point number points. Point number one, I don't care what anybody says, until we're at 50-50 in the workplace, we're not there. It's not a matter of pat us on the back because we're at 25 or 7 or 19. By nature, we've got about 50-50, and in the workplace, it's only normal that we should have 50-50. So we're just not there until somebody, I think Madame Adami, if that's the way to say it, said women are good for business. I couldn't agree more. The happiest times I've had in business were when my direct reports were 50% women. We had diversity, we had different thought, we had different ways of coming at things, and largely contributed to the fact that we had the correct ratio and we thought differently as a group. So until we're there, we got a long way to go, but that to me is the benchmark. I come with my comments from a background of a woman-dominated, I identify as a male, but my wife and 3 professional daughters have more degrees for me than I do each. My wife is actually she's been a college instructor for a number of years. She's just opening a business that's going to be comfortable for the ladies. Where did we just hear that comment? She's tired of hearing about single small businesses in Calgary run by female entrepreneurs, and they go to a shared office space and they get hit on all the time, which was also a comment. And so she's opening a little business in Calgary that rents space to single and small entrepreneurs. And it's only for women. I'm not even allowed in the space. It's called La Boss. So I kind of like that title because it shows who's in charge. Number 3 point. When I gave my opening speech, I talked a lot about that. I love this session. This is so important. And I in gender or diversity in sex, as we are categorizing here, but I was pushing engineers to be diverse in things like music. There's a reason I deliberate different way of looking at things, and diversity covers all angles. So I deliberately make that speech, and I deliberately do what I do to say, no, let's throw the stereotypes out the window and start looking at a diverse group, whether it's gender, race, or whatever type of STEM you are, or if you're not a STEM or a STEMmer. Dr. Noli spoke about what I heard when I popped in here was gender fluidity, or every man has a little bit of woman and every woman has a proportion. I love that. I love to hear that at an SPE conference. I never hear that. I like that definition because there's no straight boxes in the world I live in Canada. We have a lot of discussion about gender and inclusion. And I think we're behind in the engineering world. We're behind in the SPE world in talking that way. So I love that comment and the way you phrased it. And I think it's so critical that we don't be judgmental. Is this human a great person? Is she or he working well? Are they contributing to the team? Are they helping us look at things from different angles and thus have a competitive advantage? And that's what we have to look at. Look at humans as humans and not be judgmental, no matter where they are. You have the ocean and we have the sea. Both are beautiful. But the critical, maybe the most beautiful part is the beach. Is it ocean or is it sea? Is it male or is it female? What's the interface in between? And we have to look at the whole picture and not just say we're ocean people, we don't want anything to do with the land, or we're land people, we don't want anything to. The beach exists too. Point 5, dialogue is critical. Meetings like this are critical. We are woefully behind on women inclusion in SPE. Thank goodness when I saw the new council chair for Lagos section here, you had 7 or 8 women out of the 25. Thank goodness, because I go to some places and there's 1 woman. And we're not there. So we have to keep this dialogue up. We have to be comfortable with this dialogue. I'm very comfortable being a slim minority. I've been thrown out of a couple board seat selections because I'm not a woman or I don't identify as a woman. And I go home and I get about 3 seconds of whining time before my wife hits me and says, you know what? We've been living this crap for about 2,000 years. It's about time you take your turn. Shut up and stop whining. And I'm okay with that. We've got to go over center for a while if we want to be balanced. And the world needs women and women's ideas and women's way of doing things because they're probably better than the male version. And we've had the male version for several thousand years. So I want to just leave with saying that the dialogue is so critical. And as far as I know, somewhere in Scripture it says we're all created in God's image. And whatever deity you talk to, whether she or he says that or not, I think that's the basic thing we have to remember, that it's not about fighting and making boxes. It's about inclusion, and we are all created in the image of something bigger, and we must get along and utilize that. Thank you so much for letting me talk.
Thank you so very much. Let's give Dr. Desi Spady another round of applause. Thank you. Finally, before we present gifts to our resource persons, we'll take a vote of thanks from a woman who has delivered a lot of firsts this year for Women Development Program. She's the chair of the Women Development Program this year. Please welcome Mrs. Onyinye Reginald Ugwadu.
I am excited. Thank you very much. The BOT members that are here, I see commitment in grooming the women every time you are here. Council members, the SPEI International, I spoke with him the first day and I said, please, will you be here? He said, I think he's in my program. But he said the same story. And I love the fact that I saw him walking here and he has been here. Thank you very much, Mr. Darcy. Thank you, our speakers, Dr. Nolly, Mr. Motayo, Dr. Tom. I laugh from within because she already said she made an impact in my life. Yes. Mrs. Habiba Ali and Mrs. Ali, thank you very much for the time you spent. Some of you cut short your holiday, some of you cut short your trip for this. And of course, Council Chair. I was expecting to see Council Chair's wife. I don't know if she's here. Okay, so the recording will come to her anyway. So Council Chair, thank you very much. And the rest of the organizing committee for NAIS, especially the Women Development Program. Patience, Abia, my co-chair, Chineye, Chukuneke. I'd like to call all of them because these are amazing women. Chantal, Amina, Atinuke, Shola and Bola were veterans that handed over to me. Ugochi Akwiwu and Chinyere. I call those people because they fought. When we started the SEM, they said this is something good to do. And the fantastic exhibition you see there is being handled by Ugochi Akwiwu. So I'm trying to talk about what women can do when they set their mind to do it. You know, the venue that is so cozy and everything is handled by Bola, right? The short course that happened was handled by Shola. So these are women that are delivering this conference. And something I want to say before I say my final thanks is, when we started off as a committee this year, we asked ourselves, what do we want to take out of working together as women this year? Amina said, I'm not good at public speaking. I would like to develop that. I said, okay, I'm going to get a topic for you to talk about. Chineye said, that's also what I said, okay, you're going to do this. So all of us said, we will do something. We will develop something out of this volunteering experience that we can take back to our offices, our professional lives, and our homes. And indeed, we did it, right? And it didn't matter anything. At some point, some of the committee members were tired of the whole work to do. And then there is something we call naming and shaming. And one day I reported everyone to say, these people are not active. And so they said, how can you say I'm not active? I am active. And then they came out. And so you can see that delivering this conference is getting these top people required resilience, required commitment to connect with them, to find out where they are, how they can join us. And I have had comments to say that Dr. Ndidi, please, can you come back again? Hey. That's what they said. So, and then somewhere, she works in Shell, she said, can she come for IWD next year? I'm delivering a message. So thank you very much, everyone that has come here today. The people participating today, asking questions and listening, you are awesome. I heard some people said the family program team, last year I committed to it that we will match the two programs, and I'm glad you are here. Please, next year, I hope you are glad to be here as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for my senior colleagues also that are here. I wish you the rest of the event that you will enjoy it, and please take back these messages to your homes, to your wives, to your children, to your girl child. And for the people that are asking us for STEM, how can they support STEM? STEM is here to stay. So the SPE Secretariat will contact you, or you contact, or use this to support wherever you can for the next generation. And it's not only via SPE, you can support any girl child, any female, wherever you find them. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me call on our council chair, our SP International President, Ajara. Can we have what we're giving to our resource persons very quickly? Bricks, come with it. Come with it. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give our resource persons another resounding applause?
We're doing a picture with you. Do you want to call your ladies up?
Dr. Dozie, this is the second time I'm listening to her speak. The first time was on energy issues, and she spoke ever so eloquently with great insights. And here we're talking about women, and she has delivered yet again.
Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Mr. Montayo. Thank you, boss. Yes, thank you to Madam, who refused to believe that I did my course of discipline. Peace studies, believe it, I'm not an engineer. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Madam Ale. And of course, Madam Ali, we thank you also very much. We thank you immensely. Okay, please.
So before we hand over these gifts, something of interest came up during the conversation about mentoring and how women should leverage opportunities. The network that men create for themselves, it works in a very wonderful way. Mentors don't necessarily have to be older than you. My mentor was actually sitting to my right, Mr. Tony Atta, the MD of NLNG. And the reason why I point this out is that it's very rare. I don't know what women do, but I had a career in Shell where I was a purely technical person. And Tony was a technical person who decided at some time he was going to branch off. And then he called me aside one day. That's what a friend does for you. And says, you can do more than we. Because I'm chairman of SPE, he spent 2 days being here to support me. That is what you women have to do for us. Tony, thank you. I'm very much appreciated.
Yes, indeed. Yes, just before you do that, let's hand the Dr. Daisy, please do us the honor of handing this appreciation gift to our resource persons. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Ale. She told us of how she started and how she delivers on every assignment. Madam Sosei, I like to call her CEO of Sosei Renewables. Thank you, Madam Ali. Thank you, Dr. Nale. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, it's fine.
MD AOSOL, Mr. Motayo, we appreciate your presence. And
Are we
yes,
supposed to hold it?
Dr. Adeto Mustafa,
Hold it or should
keep inspiring. Yes, now for SP president. SP, the women love you, you see, the women love you. So you take this back to the boss. Take it back to the boss, and tell them to give him the women, yeah? Okay. Can you just move this thing a little bit so I'm not blocking anybody. Just a little bit. That's it.
The Bible is on the
Coming off. I know what I'm doing.
Should we slant a little bit?
No, don't slant. No, don't slant. Not at all. Not at all.
Do you want us to move forward?
And in order to create in order to help the gender balance,
Yes.
and embed this principle of mentorship,
Yes.
I suggest that we take on the youngest mentor and bring him up.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Ta, please join us. Please join us in this optic session. Thank you very much. Youngest mentor, she calls him. You're welcome. Interesting. And so we'll once we're done with this, canapes and drinks are served just at the back of the hall.
Doesn't mean
you
you have
get
to stand
up,
next
continue
to
the networking, interact
Stand
with
with the women.
You
the
stay
would-be
between
mentor,
women.
and
Please come and
ask
stay
the
here.
questions that
There
we've
you
not been able
go.
to ask here on the podium.
No, you can turn your side like this.
That's
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it for the Women Development Program 2018. Mrs. President Okay, so the exhibition team is appealing to the can to please take a short photo in our exhibition hall for us. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. It's served. Canapes and drinks are served at the back of the hall. See you tomorrow morning, bright and early. 10 a.m. is our start time. Of course, we will not delay. For panel
So are we giving back this to them?
Yes. We'll do it after.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Hey.
Olatunji, we need a photographer here. Who is also the president.